Throughout history, there have been an infinite number of gods. Maybe not infinite, but tens of thousands of deities. And the function of a deity is to conceive a more beautiful world, a more beautiful future. A god, a deity, is taking the present moment, the present beingness of who we are, and extrapolating it out into the future, into time, and into space as something more beautiful, something more valuable than who we are. Gods that are created at times of great helplessness, whether they be comic gods, right? The Incredible Hulk, right? Created by teenagers feeling helpless, feeling frustrated, right? Hulk is a god that provides medicine to helplessness and frustration, provides medicine to pent-up emotion, right? So all deities are created in the human mind to embody where we believe a more beautiful world exists. And in that sense, gods are contextual and they're always growing. A few thousand years ago, God was conceived within the Christian ethic, within the Christian mythology, as all-powerful. Now, what kind of person, what kind of mind is going to elevate power as the first expression of a more beautiful God? Well, a powerless people. You know, the Israelites driven out into the desert, not finding a home. So in other words, God provides medicine for the suffering, the primary source of suffering that we are experiencing. So all-powerful. Now, next, all-knowing. All-knowing. Well, what kind of person values and puts knowledge as the second rung in an archetypal framework of perfection? Because God is the current rendition of perfection. Well, knowledge. Why? It is a profoundly ignorant group of people that elevates knowledge to such a high level. You notice friendship wasn't high on the list, right? But all-powerful, if I had all the knowledge and all the power, then I would be happy. Now, the Christians created a male God. Why, right? Well, if you look contextually at whether you want to be a male or a female in a time of oppression, in a time of war, in a chauvinistic culture, right? So the male body is physically more powerful than the female body, right? In popular feminism today, that's slightly taboo. But if it wasn't for that fact, there would be no female Olympics. There would be no female sports, right? There would just be mixed team, right? And men, women, whatever, would play together. But because statistically, the best females cannot run as fast as the best males, right? Bolt is a male, right? So statistically, then there is the division so that it's fair, so that you can compete within a level playing field? Well, a few thousand years ago, wars were being fought, and they weren't being fought by computers as they are today. They were being fought by swords and spears. And who could throw who could pull the strongest bow? Who could throw the furthest spear? Who could hit with the biggest sword? Obviously, if you can wield a 100-pound sword, and your opponent can only wield a 30-pound sword, you're the winner, right? Because it's about muscle, right? So that ties into this theme of power. Obviously, if you want to be the most powerful in a time of helplessness, in a time of trauma, in a time of chaos, you want to be a male rather than a female. It's hard to win a war when you're pregnant. It's hard to win a war and take care of a baby. It's hard to win a war when your opponents are male and you're female. And the primary kind of differentiator is size and brawn. Men are statistically bigger than women. So God must be male. God must be more knowledgeable. God must be more powerful. Now, the function of a deity is to go out into the future and to provide something to aim towards. And to deviate from the goal, from the ideal, is to sin, is to miss what one is aiming for, right? The target, the bullseye, is what to aim for. And to sin, originally a term in archery meaning to miss the target, to miss the mark, to deviate from the path. And so you can think of this as a framework of development, a framework of evolution, that we need to aim for something better. In order for life to go from a big bang, from something this small, to as big as life is today, with trillions of stars, in an ever-expanding universe, we have to grow, we have to develop. And that's a process of taking the diagnosis, the sense of where we are now and what's working. These are some sharp edges. And then you project that out into the future and you create an ideal. You create a perfect sense of where we're heading. And to get lost in the weeds and go off track is to sin. Why? Because if the ideal was, in fact, a remedy for the suffering of the day, then to get off track of pursuit of the ideal is to cause chronic unnecessary suffering for you, your family, your tribe, your culture, right? So to sin is to miss the mark, right? When you set out to be debt-free, and then why not get another Starbucks Grande, for $11.99, right? Why not pick up some takeout even though there's food rotting in the fridge? And the debt got bigger. You missed the mark. The goal was good, meaning paying less money, less of your life energy to credit card companies, and more of your life energy towards investing in a beautiful world is a good goal, is taking you towards heaven. It's taking you towards less chronic suffering, more sustainable well-being. But you were distracted. You were enticed by the sirens of immediate gratification, and so you missed the mark. You sinned. And God, as a fictional being, is not going to punish you. Rather, compound interest rates will do that because you missed the mark. In other words, you know when you've missed the mark. You know when you sin because chronic suffering goes up and you can look back and say, I got off track there, I got off track there, I got off track there, and I did not arrive. My chronic and unnecessary suffering has escalated. And there was no one forcing me to get lost in all these distractions. I missed the target. I sinned. And the sin is not the punishment. And the punishment is not for the sin. The punishment is the mechanics that emerges that reflects a lower quality of life sustainably, right? I was unfaithful. I broke the trust. And it's not that I'm getting punished for breaking the trust. The punishment is the broken trust that emerges when you strayed from the line, the goal to be faithful, the goal to tell the truth, right? Now, in an open relationship, the goal is different. Right? When you're in a community where the goal, right, you start off with the square thing, right? I'm in a square life. Nobody wants to do this with me. Nobody wants to do that with me. My partner is not interested in what I'm doing over here. I have no one to do this with. I have this dream, this fantasy of having sex or having this kind of relationship, and nobody wants to do it, right? And so if I could just cut the pain of isolation off here, if I could numb or respond to the boredom I feel over here, if I could address my frustration, my disappointment, my bitterness over here, and instead aim for a new goal of conscious, open relationship, a new ideal, an idea where everyone has their needs met, right? You go and talk about that deep conversation for 3 or 4 hours with this person, right? You enjoy making out, but not going all the way with this person. You go dancing. Your wife doesn't want to go dancing. You go dancing with this person. You dream about new visions, new goals with this person. And together you form an ideal, a more complex model, right? Where all these things fit together. And then you do the same, and everyone ends up with more. That's the new ideal, right? Whether it works, whether it doesn't work, a more complex model requires more competency, more skill, right? So when you go from the ideal of gathering water, right, in the well, that's go do the well. Well, I want to do these electrical equations. Well, where's the water, right? You missed the mark. The family's thirsty. You were doing electrical equations. There's no water. You missed the mark. Go get the water. Carry, roll the thing down, put in the bucket and come up. But one day there's going to be a pump. There's going to be a motor, and we have to do these equations. But in order to do that, we have to work harder, right? An electrical infrastructure has to be built. A new technology has to be built. A new paradigm has to be built. And everyone has to get it, right? If your partner thinks you're missing the mark and that's the road to hell, and you think it's a more beautiful world, that this is the way forward, right? But if you and your partner agree, now you have a new ideal, a new picture, but you still have to develop the infrastructure. You have to develop new ways of communicating. You have to develop a wider network. You have to find other people that are interested in a new version of God, a new version of a more beautiful world. Then you have to try it out, and it doesn't work. Like, well, we didn't know, copper's the best conductor of electricity. We didn't know. We thought, we'd connect a vine here, but it's just, wasting all this energy. It's not efficient, right? We tried to pump and died in a day. Just go get the water, right? Stop trying to reinvent the wheel. But anytime a new technology comes along, it requires more skill. And that skill has to grow. There's resistance. Do we really need that? Why do we need cars? We've still got horse and buggies, right? What's going to happen to all the horses? Right? We just invested in a whole stable, right? So God evolves. Now, in an evolutionary cycle, the ideal is always an answer to an asymmetry in a past, right? If you're starting out over here, then God is over here. If you're starting out over here, though, then God is over here, right? Because God is the movement towards a more beautiful world, right? So once upon a time, God was feminine, goddess, right? The ecology, the earth, the abundance of all things, the interconnectedness of all things, God was feminine. Moving into ego consciousness and conflict and hierarchy, etc., God became masculine. Right? But God is moving towards the feminine again because feminine energy, whether in a male or whether in a female, is now more relevant to well-being than masculine energy. Most wars are not fought on foot. The technology that is most needed is quality of life technology. Right? We're not seeing who in the average neighborhood runs the farthest, right? We're seeing who types or who chats or who gets along in a team. So feminine energy, right, is on the rise. And this is part of cycles, part of breath. So God is not masculine. God is not feminine. God is the ideal that we form to guide us towards a more beautiful world based on the toxicities, the imbalances, etc. of the day. And I'll leave you with that thought.